a couple of years, and then ended up selling them at break even. They're beautiful townhomes now, whatever, 16 years later. We did not build them, but super fun part of my background, and not truly the craziest thing I've done in my business life. Probably the craziest thing was I cowboyed for a buddy that has a ranch in Montana. And for those of you that are familiar with the show Yellowstone, imagine truly getting to live that life, but not from an owner or a ranch owner perspective, more from a ranch hand perspective. We did amazing things and beautiful scenery. I got to ride my horse on cattle up in the mountains. We did cattle gathers, roundups, cattle gathers. It was incredible. And man, do I have some great stories. You'd actually be shocked at how true to life Yellowstone is. It's, at least the group I ran with, pretty darn close. So I've been incredibly fortunate to have a variety of roles and things that have kept me busy on the side. And I'm grateful for every one of those roles. And all of them have led me here to you today. Today, I am CEO of Integrate IQ. We are a custom systems integration company that is very HubSpot centric. We're also the makers of Message IQ, a bidirectional text messaging platform that I will argue is the most deeply integrated text messaging platform with HubSpot that's currently available on the market. I'm particularly interested in the text messaging space because I was the VP of sales and marketing for what was at the time the world's largest text payments and messaging company, Open Market. Gosh, now it's been 12 years ago, 10 years ago, something like that. Yeah, I've been in mobile a long time, love it. It's an area of passion of mine, and I believe deeply in that as a communication channel to help businesses grow and become more efficient. So this leads us to why would you text message? There are so many messaging channels available to you today. Things are fragmented. Why would you introduce yet another messaging channel to reach your prospects and customers? And here are a couple stats that I think aptly make the argument for that. In a recent study published by CNN, the adult attention span in 2024 is 47 seconds. So as a longtime sales leader, I can tell you for sales messaging, it's way less than that, right? You have 8 seconds maybe to make an impact, and that aligns really well with a short messaging service, SMS. So we align nicely with the way people are thinking today, the way they engage with technology and engage with content. So beyond just that short attention span and the alignment here, text messaging is also a trusted communication channel. So think about your email inbox and the vast amount of spam that you get there. Right now, your text messaging inbox isn't like that. We'll talk about this later, but the carriers are working super hard to prevent that. So you get alignment with sort of attention spans today. You have a trusted communication channel. Text messaging is an incredibly powerful medium. The other thing that I just want to mention, and I'll make a pretty safe bet at this point, that your phone is within arm's reach of you. And if you're anything like me, that's true 24 hours a day. In fact, there was a study done that says people check their phone 96 times a day. That means that when you send a text message to someone, it's likely to be received and read within seconds, minutes at most. And in fact, there's a 98% open rate for text messages. Compare that to a 22.5% open rate for emails. And now you begin to understand the power of text messaging. So landing messages in an inbox, you can pretty much count they're going to be read. So what has prevented it to date? like broad spread use to date, the tools that have existed for a long time for direct mail, for direct emails, um, haven't existed until more recently. And in fact, HubSpot is still developing them. But what I can say is now just about anything that you can do with workflows or automated messages or one-to-one messages, email messages out of HubSpot, you can now do with text messaging. So you can use HubSpot workflows and insert personalization tokens. Imagine the power that this provides to you as a marketer or an operations person wanting to get your message across. But we all have years and years of experience with direct mail and email. And like I said before, text messaging is relatively newer technology. It's still evolving a little bit. So I don't expect that you are as well grounded in that as you are in traditional methods of communication. So let's just get grounded a little bit in definitions. So you may think that text messaging is just text messaging, right? No, it's not exactly true. The text messages that you are most used to seeing are from friends and family. Those are referred to as 10DLC or 10-digit long code messages. They show up, the sender shows up on your phone like a phone number, a traditional phone number. There's other types of text messages as well that can be sent. First, you can send and receive text messages from toll-free numbers. They show up on your phone, on the recipient's phone, as a traditional 800-866, as a traditional toll-free number. Open and response rates for these are typically lower than from 10DLC numbers. They seem, the perception is they're spammy because the spammers got them early. They quickly got shut off, but they have this perception of being spammy, so they have a lower open and response rate. Typically, we do not recommend these for most clients. The next option is short codes. These are 5-digit numbers that can either be dedicated in groups and associated with a business based on a keyword that gets sent in, or they can be dedicated. Short code messaging is really highly regulated and monitored very closely by the carriers. Again, spammers got these kind of back in my day at open markets. Let's call it 10, 12 years ago. It's now very, very highly regulated and closely monitored by the carriers because of those bad actors. Unless you are doing really high volumes or want mobile payment capabilities, and those are small mobile payments like $1.99, $4.99 kind of thing. So small types of transactions. We typically don't recommend short codes for customers unless it's a very, very large campaign. A little higher bar to get through compliance and regulatory will be monitored more closely. But if you're sending out literally millions of messages a month, then short codes might be the right thing for you. Virtually all of our campaigns, including some very, very large campaigns for large Fortune 500 customers, are those 10 DLC or the 10-digit long code numbers. They work well. They have high response rates. They feel natural coming into a recipient's phone. The next definition we should address quickly is the term messages. That's a little bit of a misnomer. I just want to call it to your attention because it's really a commonly used industry term. And when most vendors say messages, they mean segments. So a segment is a string of 160 characters, but kind of like Twitter does. They limit your tweets to a certain number of characters. In this case, messages are really SMS segments, 160 character segments. And it works just like from our platform. It works just like when you're sending a text message from your phone. Let's say you have a novel to write to a friend on text message. It looks like a seamless message when the recipient receives it. So those 160 character segments get concatenated on the recipient's phone. Same happens from Message IQ. Send a long message, and it will be concatenated on the recipient's phone. The thing to know here, though, is you may be charged for more than one segment, and that's the call out here more than anything. As you evaluate vendors for text messaging and they refer to their variable message rates, make sure that you are thinking about that in terms of message segments, not in terms of messages necessarily. So let's move off that. I'll touch on it again a little bit later.
Yeah, and actually, Tim, we had a question come in before our event today talking about that. Explicitly, they asked, how do political and other unwanted texts keep coming through to us?
Oh man, yeah. So that's a hot button for me. There are tons of regulations around SMS messages in the mobile market, and this has been going on for decades. Back when I was at Open Market, same exact thing happens. The politicians require a carve out for political messages. It's unbelievable hypocrisy, but I'm not particularly surprised, just incensed. So there are political carve outs. Yeah, you're going to get a ton of text messages in the next year that are politics related. So sorry about that. I reply stop to all those. So one thing you can do when you receive those, immediately reply stop. That will actually, we don't send political messages, but through our platform, and I think most platforms, and in fact at the carrier level, if you reply stop systemically at the carrier level, those messages should get blocked. So I'd say that's your best armor against those political messages.
Great
question. Thanks.
To the rest of the group, we've got a lot of folks on. If you do have questions, please log those in the chat and we'll hit them in line or at the end.
Beautiful. Great. And maybe that question leads nicely into this last definition that I want to touch on, and that is around consent. So before sending any messages, carriers require that you receive the recipient's consent. You do that by typically having a checkbox on a form, or receiving a text message back from them acknowledging that they accept and acknowledge that they are going to be receiving a text message or several text messages from you. This is a webinar topic all on its own, so I'm not going to dive into it deeply here, but if you have questions about consent and what consent looks like and how to get opt-ins, we'll touch on it later in this discussion, but feel free to reach out to BusyWeb can help with that. I can help with that. And it's a significant discussion. Okay, with those high-level definitions out of the way, let's move on and talk about who's using text messages. And the short story here is everybody's doing it. It is a very impactful way to send communication and get leads and customer attention. So I have seen text messaging successfully leveraged with video game providers, professional services companies, manufacturers, financial and real estate companies, construction, lawn care, retail, e-commerce, healthcare are using it a ton, right? Physical therapists, dentists, even churches and schools are using text messaging to communicate with their congregates, parents, and students. In short, it doesn't really matter what industry you're in. There's likely a way for you to leverage text messaging that fits into your business model and will help you grow or become more efficient. So that answers the question of who's using text messaging. It's everybody. Everyone's doing it. So now let's explore how text messaging is being used. And I'm in the context of this discussion this morning, I'm going to think about this from a sales and marketing perspective. I recognize there are likely some operational folks on the webinar as well. Super happy to dive deeper with operational type use cases. Again, talk to BusyWeb about that. Feel free to reach out to me. If we don't go into the depth here, we actually offer a free of charge half-hour strategy session to work with folks that are in the industry and interested in exploring text messages to see how they can leverage it in their specific business. But it's safe to say that this can be used in sales and marketing scenarios, operational, financial services, and transactional scenarios. We'll get into a little bit of those later. So again, diving into sales and marketing scenarios for this conversation, I think about the top of the sales and marketing funnel as needing to increase a company's profile. And there's a number of ways that you can leverage text messaging to do that. Now, one tried and true method that we use a fair amount at Integrate IQ is combining text messaging with print and digital advertising. That is social and search advertising or traditional print, flyers, billboards, and publications. In these instances, an option to text in for more information or take advantage of a free evaluation or a limited time offer, they're all great ways to get attention and to increase your profile. And in fact, recently Message IQ ran Google search and Facebook advertising campaigns. The call to action from those campaigns was to complete a form in return for a limited time discount. Now, when someone did that, we had a workflow set up in HubSpot that triggered a multi-message text message flow. And when someone filled out that form, it would kick off 5 text messages sent over a 4-day period. And if we didn't get response from that, then an email sequence would kick off. We'll talk more about this later, but I want to emphasize one thing to keep in mind when running campaigns like this is compliance. It is challenging if a program gets shut down to get it turned back on. It's a black mark on the sender, and it is challenging to get stood back up so your messages can begin flowing again. So you want to make sure that you're getting appropriate opt-in. You also want to make sure you're sending compliant messages. Configuring text messaging workflows now is just like configuring email message workflows in HubSpot. You have all the same ability. You can include personalization tokens. You can branch steps. There's all sorts of triggers that you can use. When I talked earlier about the technology moving forward so that now sending text messages is as simple as sending email messages, it's absolutely true. In fact, if you look at the background of this slide, this is an actual example of a workflow that we created for Inbound last year. And that program was send a keyword into my office number, and we would automatically respond. That would get you into a workflow of a quiz full of terrible, terrible dad jokes. It was kitschy and fun, and people enjoyed it. It was also a great way to show off the sophistication of workflows in HubSpot and logic that you can build in. So if you look at this workflow, you can see that there's lots of branch logic and steps. I think this was maybe a 4 or 5 part sequence. So the message that I want to leave this slide with and leave you with here is really you're only limited by your imagination. Now, to be truthful, most of our workflows look like a 2x4. It's a single flow, step by step. They take 5 minutes to set up, and again, very powerful. They don't have to be complex like this, but there's nothing that limits you. All right, so text top of funnel, getting your profile increased. And once you've done that, now the next step to continue to move your customer through the acquisition funnel is to increase your credibility. You want to continue to add value to your audience. Text messaging, you won't be surprised to hear, is a great way to do this. So imagine segmenting your audience into their various areas of interest, right? So you can really drill in on your ideal customer profile and then send those different audiences appropriate and relevant information. Perhaps it's a relevant product update or a regulatory change or an event reminder. You may be thinking to yourself, well, small screen on a phone, so you can't send long form content, and that's one call out I want to make here. You're absolutely right. Phones are not a great format for long form content. However, you can link to longer form content if you wish. If you do include a hyperlink, there are some regulations around that. So right now, if you use like a bit.ly or a non-domain specific hyperlink, expect the carriers to block you. Spammers got a hold of those hyperlink shortener services, and I don't know, a year or so ago, really started using them en masse to redirect people inappropriately to scam sites. Carriers have really hammered down on that. So today, using a hyperlink shortening service that associates with your domain, it's something that we offer as an add-on to Message IQ. Those work, should not get shut down by the carriers, but if you're using a bit.ly or Google link shortener, it's likely that you'll get shut down if you have any volume. So if you want to capture engagement and keep conversational momentum up to drive urgency, so do things like send meeting invitations, announce limited time flash sales, announce new product notifications. They're all a great way to keep your prospects engaged through this middle stage of the funnel. One great example of the impact of text messaging is sending meeting reminders. Doing so reduces no-show rates by 50%. So
yeah,
if
Tim, I was just going to say that we had a client who's been using Message IQ for their meeting reminders. I believe they're actually on this presentation right now, but their show rate definitely went up, and it's even with an older population as opposed to the younger population that you would expect a text message.
It's shocking to me, Jen. Everybody just expects it now. I mean, my mom's 87 years old. Not great at text messaging, but she can receive them. So text messaging for all sorts of different use cases is appropriate for all sorts of customer and prospect profiles. Just the one thought I'd like to share here and get your imagination going. If your business relies on people showing up for meetings, say you're a physical therapist or a dentist or something, imagine if you do reduce your show rate or your meeting miss rate by 50%. My gosh, that can make a big impact and quickly pay for any SMS service. Okay, so we made it through the top and the middle of the funnel. Well, now at the bottom of the funnel, you found your audience, you've engaged them. Now it's time to close the deal. So text messaging, you're not going to be surprised to hear, it's great, great to leverage here as well. Think about drip campaigns to remind prospects of the benefit of your product or solution, just to keep them engaged over time. You can drive urgency with them through special limited time offers. And once the deal is closed, your relationship with that customer doesn't end. So you want those customers to have a fantastic first experience with your brand. Use text messaging to send order confirmations, send receipts once the deal is closed. If you need to deliver a product, text messaging is a great way to send shipping details, include tracking reminders, include shipment updates when keeping your customers informed of when they can expect their product to arrive. And then even after that, You've got them to have a fantastic experience. You want to loop back to the beginning and increase your profile again in the market. Send your now very satisfied customers customer satisfaction surveys. That's going to provide you insight into your customer's experience, but it's also a great way to increase your profile, send links to rating websites. Great way to increase visibility and credibility with your product. Whew, that's been a lot to get you through the funnel. Let's talk about customer nurturing. And, sales is this virtuous cycle that really only begins with closing the sale on a new customer. The way I think about customers and customer engagements is it's nice to have that first sale, but I'm looking for a long, ongoing relationship with a customer. And text message can help you develop a positive, ongoing relationship with those new customers where the customer feels supported and you have the opportunity to present new solutions to them. So one cautionary note here, though, I don't want you to get overly enthusiastic. So don't be spammy. You want to present good value and great vibes in every message that you share, but you don't want to just hammer your now new customers over and over again. So,
Tim, I heard from another text message provider that it's really important to start out the messages with like your company name or something like that so that they remember, nobody's going to remember bookmark, who the phone number is probably from, somebody that they visit or whatever. But if you could start the message with that and then, make it, fun and really relevant to what they're doing, the rates go up even higher, don't they?
You are reading my mind, Jen.
Sorry.
No, it's fabulous. I love it. This is that's really good. And in fact, I'll share. I don't want to call it the secret to text messaging on the next slide, but clearly there's more than one of us talking about it. It's not a secret, but it is incredibly impactful. We use it all the time in our business. So just to touch on and wrap up this particular topic, some ideas, relevant topics to keep your new customers engaged: office closure notifications, happy birthday notifications, holidays, updates to a loyalty program if you have that, upcoming events if you have those, appointment reminders we talked about, and then other calendar related timely reminders, right? It's almost tax time. We are approaching the end of the year. Your subscription's about to expire. And then my favorite, if your company sells a consumable product and you have a sense of how quickly that is typically consumed, think about this. Sending messages that go something like, service is coming up on your vehicle, on your air conditioner, or you're about to run out of your toner cartridge ink. You're running low on your supplements. Reorder now. Include a link to reorder that particular product. Super powerful. Make it easy for your customer to re-engage with you. Remind them it's a great service that you're providing to your customer. So lots and lots of great ways to use text messaging operationally and to develop and nurture and support your customers. And Jen, to your point, there is a key to success with text messaging, and you're absolutely right. It's personalization and identification. So the simple formula for this is using first the recipient's first name, then identifying yourself and the reason you're reaching out. Be clever, but don't be cryptic. Then quickly jump to your call to action. This is short form content, so fluff is just going to distract. Here's a straightforward example of a message that we use in our business daily. So, John, this is Tim with Message IQ. I'm contacting you about the quote that you requested. Can you meet 10 a.m. to discuss? So simple, fast, quick and to the point. Expect a significant response rate. Keep in mind that you can increase engagement by doing a couple of other things. Most platforms, certainly Message IQ, allows you to use emojis. So emojis will further increase engagement. People love pictures. You can include pictures as well. And I guess one note on emojis and pictures or other media that you sent via text message. I talked earlier about segments, not messages. For Message IQ, we charge messages with emojis as 2 segments, or as pictures as 2 segments. That's overly simplifying things. We do it just for simplicity reason. If you are evaluating other vendors, make sure to ask how they charge for those things. Okay, that's how you send text messaging, engaging throughout the customer funnel, throughout the customer lifecycle, including operationally. So now let's talk about compliance. You have a plan, you have your ICP, or ideal customer profile, identified. But before you begin sending text messages, you need to run a bit of a gauntlet with the industry regulators and carriers. Because this is such a powerful medium, spammers have jumped in with both feet. And you have likely noticed spam coming into your text message feed outside of the political spam that you're getting. And the carriers are working super hard to eliminate this. They have introduced some hoops that you need to jump through in order to begin sending text messages. And there's really 3 steps that you need to run through to gain approval for your text messaging. It begins with submitting a brand application through your messaging supplier to an organization called the Campaign Registry. The purpose of this application is really just to validate that you are a legitimate business. Review of this application tends to happen within a day, very often within a couple of days at most. Make sure that when you're submitting that, you're using your legal business entity name, not your DBA or doing business as name, and that your address that you submit will match what's in your tax documentation. So the Campaign Registry is going to check what's on state and federal records to align what you're submitting to what's been submitted to the federal or state regulators. After the brand campaign, then what you need to submit is your campaign application, and this one's trickier, takes longer to review, takes longer to create. There are 3 things to think about when submitting your campaign application. And these are the 3 things that our customers most frequently get tripped up on. You need to have a privacy policy on your website. You need to have terms of use on your website. These are typically linked from the footer. And then every single place where you're asking for a phone number on your website, whether it's a form or whether it's a meeting link, anywhere you're asking for a phone number, you need to have an optional checkbox and specific text language that makes it clear that you're going to be sending text messages to this person. All of this is meant to ensure that the recipients of your text messages expect them and have opted into them. You want to get this right the first time. At Message IQ and Integrate IQ, we vet through your website, your terms, your privacy policy before we submit to the Campaign Registry, because it's difficult once a campaign has been declined to get it approved again. It just takes time and confusion, and it's frustrating for everybody involved. So keep those 3 things in mind. One thing I want to reinforce is that checkbox on your forms needs to be optional. You can't have it be a required field. You should expect that the Campaign Registry, and the final step is a regulatory agency, DCA, to comb through your website top to bottom. So it is going to be a deep review. You should do it. We'll do it before we submit. Compliance is a webinar topic all on its own. I'm not going to deep dive into it here today, but there are some good resources at messageiq.io reach out to me personally or reach out to BusyWeb. We can all walk you through compliance. And if you decide that text messaging is for you, we can help just sort of shepherd you through the compliance process. So that whole process of submitting your application, getting it approved and reviewed can take up to 2 or 3 weeks, depending on the regulator's backlog. And that's assuming that the campaign doesn't get stuck for any reason. Your compliance obligations don't stop once your application is approved. You then need to send messages that are compliant as well. So if you don't, and you're sending really any volume at all, you run the risk of being caught and your campaign suspended. If you're to this point, you're probably relying on text messaging as a key communication method. Carriers will shut you down without asking, without delay, without warning. So it can create significant disruption. So you want to make sure that your messages are compliant. In addition to blocking messages, shutting you down immediately, future campaigns and applications will be scrutinized more closely. So please send compliant messages. Really, it comes down to your text messages being clear and direct. And if you're sending automated messages, not just one-to-one, so from Message IQ, you can send one-to-one, automated, and bulk messages. If they're automated or bulk, you need to include appropriate stop, help, and data rate language. We actually append some of this if you don't include it. So we try to help customers where we can, but just it's better if you include it yourself. Then you control the message more carefully yourself. In addition to that, you're going to get attention, not necessarily blocked, but you'll get attention from the carriers if you send anomalous messaging. And what I mean by that is, let's say you normally send 20,000 messages a month or 2,000 messages a month. If suddenly you send 100,000 messages a month, that's going to get the attention of the carriers. And just be aware and be prepared for that. The other thing that will catch the carrier's attention if you're sending messages during off hours. So if you send it really late at night or early in the morning, you're likely to get the carrier's attention, and not in a great way. All right, so now you have a plan, you have your ICP identified. So how do you get people to opt in to text messaging? Much like email lists, you want to create a list of people that have opted into text messages. I've already addressed at a high level what opting in means, so I'm not going to go into it again here. And there's lots of strategies that you can do to get folks to opt in. The most common is to have a form on your website with that optional checkbox. In addition to that, you can include it in your transactional emails. So include an opt-in in your email signatures, on your invoices, in your newsletters, or other bulk email communications. You can ask your sales and account management teams to talk through optional opting in or compliance with their customers and leads. If you do that, make sure that that acceptance is captured in your CRM. You want to be able to go back and prove that that individual opted in if you're audited. So just make sure that you're documenting your customer's preference. If you want to be extra sure, have your account executive or account manager send their contact a text message thanking them for their preference, and then giving them the option to opt out and stop text messaging if they prefer. All of that text traffic should be tracked in your CRM. If messages are sent from either the Message IQ web app or from HubSpot using Message IQ, all that gets automatically tracked. So you're in. Not necessarily the case with other text message providers, so make sure to ask as you're evaluating them.
So Tim, we did just get a question about the native SMS functionality in HubSpot. Kind of, what are our thoughts? I have some distinct thoughts, but I thought I'd let you go first.
Yeah. I have some distinct thoughts too. I guess uh, the couple of high level things I want to mention here is they're very new to the game. My experience with HubSpot is they come out with a relatively raw offering. This is true across the board, and then they quickly evolve it. Today, I would say it's not there. It's obviously built into the platform, but for a long time they didn't. It was all outbound messaging. They didn't have the ability to accept inbound messaging. There's a lot of the integration and automation capabilities that exist today with other providers that have been. Message IQ's been around for 4 years. So we've had lots of time to evolve our platform, and HubSpot's just now catching up. The other thing that I'll say about HubSpot is, my God, are they expensive? Holy cow!
Yeah, it's about double the price of Message IQ. I'm not trying to do a commercial for Message IQ. I mean, it's a great solution. You know, we've worked together to integrate in several of our clients, and you know, in my opinion, with the HubSpot offering, like you said, they just started offering replies out of text messaging. It is much more expensive. It's starting to be able to be put into workflows, but it's still, like you said, very, very raw. So, you know, they're working on it, but, you know, the reason that we brought Message IQ to the Hub today was really because it's a fully blown solution that works with all of the hubs in HubSpot. It was built for HubSpot, and so that's why, with, you know, the integrations that we can do, the automations and everything, to really give that delight phase of the customer journey, you know, we wanted to make sure to bring probably the best partner forward for that.
Thanks, Jen.
And it's about half the price of HubSpot. So
yeah. And ironically, right. I have a dog in this fight, but in my mind, it's more capable. It's really ironically more deeply integrated, which seems odd. Yeah, just make it. I guess the other thing is you have a personalized onboarding experience with Message IQ and probably other vendors as well. We help shepherd you. You have a human being that's going to work with you through the onboarding process, through that compliance and application process, which is critical. I don't expect anybody on this call or on this webinar is an SMS expert. So, you know, we've done this for hundreds and hundreds of customers now, and we kind of know where the bodies are buried with regulators. All right, so evaluating partners. That was a great segue, Jen. Thank you. Generally, there is no obligation, ongoing obligation for SMS vendors. So, you know, you don't sign up for a year-long contract with some you do, but not with most. Certainly not with Message IQ. You're month to month, and gosh, you can get in for $29.99 a month, right? So there's really no reason not to give this a try. At least experiment with it. It's not a big investment. As you're evaluating, look for partners that are deeply integrated with HubSpot. You want to take advantage of workflows, sequences, triggers, personalization tokens. You want to easily access SMS from the company contact or deal records. We have both a web app and the ability to send from HubSpot. You want to make sure that everything that you send gets captured on the contact activity history, so you get a full view of what's happening with those contacts. You know, pricing is going to vary greatly. We talked about HubSpot being more expensive right now. Watch out for overages. Some vendors will have a low initial rate, you know, like the $29.95 or $29.99 rate, but your overages will bite you if you go over. And remember the message to segment definition. So just keep that in mind as you're thinking about this. I don't expect that your SMS industry experts. So you want to make sure that you have strong regulatory support. Someone that can vet your messages as you're thinking about campaigns, someone that can help shepherd you through that initial application process. And as I mentioned earlier, and you may not believe this, there are a number of providers that only send outbound messages. That is completely useless in my mind. Think about yourself. If you receive a message from a vendor that you want to hear from, it's very likely that you want to action that message somehow. You want to reply. We get a lot of people that a message gets sent out and they call back to that same phone number just because it's easy and quick. So just make sure, in my mind, two-way text messaging is an absolutely must-have. The ability to call back the number that texted you is an absolute must-have. So keep that in mind as well.
We do have another question, Tim, and it actually tied into the pricing conversation. Edward says, I work in B2B professional business services. First of all, getting mobile numbers from our buyers is always difficult. Once I achieve that, my thought for SMS in my marketing flow is primarily in booking sales meetings. Don't really have a need for ongoing messages after that. For a lower volume sender, maybe 100 a month at most, what's a cost-effective option?
Yeah, there are vendors out there that are below that $29.99 a month price. I can't speak to deliverability rates, their ability to get you through that application process. Mm-hmm. There's inexpensive options available. They might be great. I can't validate that because I haven't vetted them or sent campaigns through them.
Well, I think you kind of answered it as you were talking, because $30 a month is pretty cost effective, even for 100 a month. But I know what you guys include. So for Edward's other point, are there good ways to engage people and maybe try to get more numbers?
Yeah. So two thoughts. Edward, as you think about this, think about what is the value of every sale that you have, right? And if you can increase meeting rates, are you increasing the probability of closing a deal? I'm going to guess that the answer is yes. You should be able to put together a quick calculation to see what the value of that is to you on a monthly basis. And that will help you determine whether $29.99 or $2,000 a month works, whether it makes sense for you. In terms of engaging people and getting them to opt in, there's a number of ways to do that. The most common is a form on your website. I talked earlier about a campaign that we ran. It was a digital campaign for Google Ads and Facebook, where the call to action was to complete a form that had an opt-in on it. So in almost it's an optional choice, but almost everybody completed that opt-in. There's a study out that says 90% of people would prefer text messaging versus a voice call or email. I know I would. So people want to text message. They want to hear from you via text message. Don't be shy about that. Just make sure you're adding value to their lives and their process. And again, Busy Web and Message IQ can help you think through that in strategy sessions. So lots of ways to build up, just like in your email opt-in list. Lots of ways to build up that text message opt-in list.
Amazing.
Okay, and we're almost at the end, both in terms of time and slides. So at this point, you're all set, right? You understand how to select a messaging provider, what's needed for compliance, now how to entice people to opt into text messages. You have some messaging strategies, including specific sales and operational scenarios. from here, you can extend your learning. We put together a free text messaging playbook earlier this year. You can download that at this QR code.
We will also have the link in the thank you email as well.
Oh, beauty. Great. In that playbook, you're going to get some specific ideas, compliance tips, some specific messaging templates to use, similar to that one that I shared earlier. Customer's name, your name, specific call to action. Be short. Don't be clever, but don't be cryptic. Map your customer journey. Think about how text messaging can fit into this, and then, sign up for a text messaging service and just try it. Just try it. It's $29 a month. There's typically no ongoing obligation. And then finally, reach out to BusyWeb or me for a strategy session. We can deep dive with you in a 30-minute session how text messaging can be applied in your business specifically. We can come up with all those ideas and templates and help get you on your way.
Love it. Thank you so much, Tim.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
I wanted to set aside a little bit of time for general kind of Q&A. I believe everyone's mics should be open if you would like to chat or ask other questions. And if you'd prefer that we not record your request or your question, I can certainly turn off recording. But let's do a little bit of final networking in the last couple of minutes here. So anybody has anything that they'd like to share or ask, this is your shot. And I'm sure there's a lot of folks that are scrambling and getting ready with their day now because this was an early one, especially for Tim, again, who was on the West Coast. So thanks for starting at 6:30 in the morning your time, Tim. It was amazing to have you with us.
Yeah, I'm happy to do it. No problem at all. And we had a weather report earlier. It was pouring down rain, has been for a week. It's stopped. So I looked out in my backyard here.
We had a downpour in Minneapolis yesterday. We got like 2 inches of rain inside of an hour and a half. So there were flood warnings everywhere. It was pretty intense. But hey, we're good now. Well, perfect. Thanks, everybody. Don't forget June 26th, we've got our next webinar coming up. And that, again, is Content Hub built for next level marketing, brought to you by Dynamico. And Amy did have a quick question. Do you have any forecasting benchmarks on cost per in a B2B environment? So I think that's a great question to end on.
It is a great question. Cost per, what I assume you're referring to is cost per sale. It's going to vary so widely depending on what you're sending. We have customers that are using text message to move their prospects through, $250,000 deal cycles, and customers that are sending $5 products. So it's hard to put a number on that. The one thing I would say is reach out to BusyWeb or myself, and we'll put together a quick calculator for you. So we can help you think through ROI on text messaging in your specific instance.
Perfect.
Wonderful. Well, Tim, thank you very much for joining us.
Happy to do it. Super happy to do it.
Next month's hug is on the new Content Hub. Dynamico has the product manager from Content Hub from HubSpot coming to present and kind of show you all the new things with and how they've upgraded what used to be CMS Hub to Content Hub. So that's an exciting one as well.
Well, it's going to be fun. There's so many new toys. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Great. Well, thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you all next time.
Bye, everybody.
Have a good day.